Hello and welcome to this video. Now, it's definitely going to be known that this video is going to be a little bit niche compared to the ones we normally do. Now, the reason this video is going to be a little bit different is we're going to have two different independent QuickBooks accounts. Now, there are many reasons why this is a scenario for certain businesses out there, but two of the main reasons is, number one, you might now need to have a completely separate client account. Maybe you're something like a solicitor or a estate agent and you're having to deal with client monies. Well, in that case, you want to segregate that completely. Having a completely new QuickBooks account is by far the best way of doing that. And number two is if you need to segregate your business in certain ways. So a good example of this could be the fact that you want to be making sure that your team can look after your sales ledger, so raising sales invoices and allocating sales invoices. But you might not want your team to be able to see the rest of what's happening in your business. So if you had two different bank accounts, say one that was just dealing with your client monies and you transfer the money over at a certain point, and then the other bank account has got your wages going out of it, it's got all your other expenses, all your sensitive business information, then sometimes that's a real benefit to you and your business. Now, normally in QuickBooks Online, you can't just say that one person can have access to one bank account and not the other. We don't have that granularity when it comes to issuing out user credentials. But what we could do is, for example, in this scenario, has two different QuickBooks licenses and then they talk to one another. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So again, quite a niche little topic, but for the people who need this, this is going to be an absolute lifesaver for how they're going to set up their QuickBooks and actually have those two talking to one another. Stay tuned.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it starts, I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me.
Hello, my name is Aaron Patrick. I'm a chartered accountant, a certified UK trainer, a fancy new logo, that QuickBooks chap on the internet, and also head of accounts here at Boffix. Now, as I said in the intro, this topic is really, really niche. And the reason for that is because there's only very certain circumstances where you're going to have two QuickBooks licenses for the same business. But when you do, you've got to really think about some considerations. In this scenario, we're going to split our QuickBooks licenses into the two camps. The first camp is your main business account. That's where you're going to be doing your wages, you're going to do all your sensitive information, and the only people who are going to have access to that are you're going to be your higher level members of the team. So, you know, your managers, your managing directors, them sort of people are going to have access. Whereas on the other camp, we're going to have basically a whole license dedicated to raising sales invoices, allocating payments when they come through. And on there, we might have every single member of our team having access to that license because we want them to be up to date with how much money that's in the bank account, which clients are up to date paying, raising a sales invoice if they need to because they need to get some work done, whatever it's going to be. We want all that information to be in that one particular account. Now, the problem we have in this scenario is, well, they're VAT registered. So that means that we want to file that VAT return, but at the moment, the VAT return is split in two different scenarios. So we need to basically transfer the information from the client account to the main account, and we've got to be really, really careful about it. Two reasons we need to be careful. Number one, making tax digital. Digital links is this brand new scenario that complicates things a little bit, but we need to make sure that basically the data that we send from one account to the other is going to be compliant. And number two, in this particular case, they're also cash accounting. If you don't know what cash accounting is, don't worry about it. Well, basically, if you do know about cash accounting, then you know how sensitive your VAT is going to be based on how much VAT is actually collected in a particular period, based on how much debtors that you have left at the end of it. So we're throwing in quite a few complications to this one. So that's why in this video, all I'm going to do is I'm going to take it so I run through a working example so you can see exactly how I would tackle it, so that should give you some confidence to go out there and implement it yourself. Let's have a look at stage number one in getting this all set up. Okay, stage number one is basically understanding that we have two different accounts. Here's my main account. If I just look at my bank account here, look at what's been categorized. I've got things like wages and stuff coming through here. I've got my normal expenses going through there. But you'll notice there's no income. The only income I've had is a transfer, and that transfer is from my other bank account I've got with this company, and that other bank account is what I would class as my client account in this scenario. If I jump to my other QuickBooks account, which I've just called client account for this purpose, you'll see that I have another bank account connected on here. So this is a separate bank account. So in this scenario, I have 2 bank accounts for this particular client. And what you'll notice is that if I jump into the banking, have a look at what's categorized, you can see only a few transactions here. I've got bank deposit, so I've got a client paying me, but multiple transactions in this one. And I've also got my bank account, and I've also got that transfer from the other bank account as well. Now, in this scenario, you might think, well, why don't I just connect my bank account to my main account and just basically just keep working with them? Now, that will work, but the problem is you're going to have to duplicate all the work you're doing. And especially in a scenario like this, where it could be quite an intricate little piece of workings, for you to be able to get to the position where you're actually being able to reconcile and get that client account correct. Well, in these certain circumstances, it might be best to have that opportunity, just to have that separation, because then you've got multiple people working on it. You should have multiple hands being able to make sure that things are clean and tidy. You see, there's a lot of things, a lot of moving parts that we need to get right here. And one of the most important things is about reconciling it. So let's first of all, before we go back to that main account, let's concentrate on this client account, exactly how we're using it. Well, first of all, you need to be making sure that from a taxes point of view, you got your VAT set up exactly right. So in this scenario, what I've got here is I'm going into my latest one. So we're going to look at doing June's VAT return together. And in here, I'm looking at it, and this is the VAT information that I want to basically carry forward over to QuickBooks Online. And that's basically the information I'm going to move over to my main QuickBooks account. So in this scenario, what we're going to do is we're going to move June's figures from the client account into our main account, being very, very particular in the VAT side of things. So even though we've collected more than 9 and a bit grand in this scenario, we only want to pay over 9 and a bit grand. I'm going to show you the actual reports in a minute to show you exactly what that means. But before we do that, let's make sure, and this is really critical, let's set up our client account ready for that migration of data. And the first thing we need to do is reconcile it and make sure we're happy with it. So let's have a look. So at the moment, if I jump into banking, you'll notice that at the moment I've got £24,900 here. So let's go to bank register and let's reconcile it. Let's assume that all of my transactions have been done, and in reality I'll have much more transactions I've got here, but all I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm trying to reconcile to this point. So I press reconcile, go through my normal reconciliation process. So what I'm going to do now is reconcile my bank. So that's me saying that I'm now finished, ready to reconcile it, and that's a good position to be in. And in fact, really, really important, because when you do this migration, you want to be making sure you're migrating the correct figures. There's no point doing this, finding some errors, having to correct it, you just get yourself into a mess. Make sure that you've reconciled it full, and then when you migrate that data over, you're confident in that data being 100% correct. So let's look a little deeply into what's been sent over. The bank account's just been reconciled, so I'm confident in that. Main bank account, well, that's going to be the main bank account in my other QuickBooks license, so I need to make sure that that's correct. Here I've got some debtors, and that's where I'm going to get a bit of an issue. And here I've got VAT control, and during this time I've collected £14,000 worth of VAT. £75,000 of sales in that year, but remember, I'm on cash accounting. I've still got some debtors left, so not all of this £14,000 needs to be paid over. Now, for me to make sure that I can put the right amount in, I need to be making sure my VAT return on this end, on my client account, is correct. So I want to do all my checks as normal to make sure. And what I should be left over once I've transferred my VAT over, if I jump in my VAT report section, go to my detailed debtors, go customize, outstanding VAT, run report, I'll be expecting that on my debtors, I still have £4,516.67 left over. That's what I expect to see in my VAT control account. So my next step is to go in and I'm going to do taxes. From the taxes, I'm going to go and I'm actually going to just do a error check my return. So for the 1st of June to 30th of June, I just need to make sure everything's right. So am I happy that this is an excluded item? Yep, that looks good to me. Any other errors? No. Do my normal checks and go prepare now. And then that will tell me that actually out of that 14,000, only 9 and a bit grand is the one that's going to be paid over. And the key for me now is I need to go in and mark as filed. Now I'm going to change this to the 30th of the 6th, 21, and I'm going to press mark as filed and continue. Now the reason that's so important is if I go to my search bar, it's now generated a new journal entry on the 30th of the 6th. And what it's done is it's moved the VAT control amount to VAT suspense. And what that means is if I run my report, trial balance, and let's just go last month, then you'll see that my VAT control handles what's left over that I'm not paying over yet. So that'll be paid in future months when or if I get paid my actual debtors that are outstanding. Whereas this is the amount that I want to be actually paid over to HMRC. And it's critical I do it this way and I mark those as paid, and I make sure I mark paid at the end of the month because I want to then bring that figure in. Now, historically, I've already paid £1,000 of that, so there's only £9,483.33 I need to pay over. And how do I get to the figures that need to be? At this point, I'm really happy with my client control. I've reconciled my bank, I'm 100% happy with it, and I've also, and this is critical we do this, I've also gone and done that VAT return over on that year at that period end. Now that I've done that, I'm ready to start this migration. But again, I can't just go and just put some random figures in there. I need to make sure from a digital links point of view, I'm keeping everything correct. My biggest advice for this will be, first of all, to create yourself a little document that you can use as your digital links. And my best option is this one here. So what I'm going to do is custom, with my export feature, I'm going to export to Excel. This will form the basis of my digital link so that when I do actually bring in my new journal entry into QuickBooks, into my main account, I'm going to attach these documents, and these documents will form my basis. The last thing I need to do is I need to see what I'm going to move over. And this is a typical opening balance scenario. So I'm going to run report of my trial balance as at May, so the period before, export to Excel, run report, and I'm exporting as at this period. Now I have ready, I've got my client account. I'm just going to unzip that so that it's friendly for me to actually bring that in. So I have my digital link workings, my trial balance prior to me making this move, so the period before, and what my trial balance looks like now. Now if I open up the trial balance, it looks like now. I've got my trial balance as of 1st of June, and my trial balance 31st of May, and I'm going to just copy and paste them in. Now I'm just going to do a typical opening balance journal. So at this point what I've done is I've created an opening balance. So basically a movement of what needs to happen. If you look at it in a little bit more detail, this is what it was at June, this is what it was at May. If I post £18,900, I'm going to basically put the movement. Same here, 48,000. My debtors has decreased over that period, so I want to see that one. And my VAT control has moved slightly, so I want to be putting the fact that I've got some extra VAT control to worry about. But my VAT suspense, which is an important one to me, that's also moved, so I'm going to bring that to VAT suspense just there. Now VAT suspense is my most important one. That's the VAT I want to be paying over, and I also want to be showing that I had an extra £45,000 worth of sales in that period and split it from there. Now at this point I don't need to go into any more detail in terms of how that sales is split. Remember, we took a copy of everything that happened, so we've taken those digital links, we've got that folder of everything that's there when we exported that data. So all I do need to do now is post the movement. I'm just going to be careful when I post the movement, and I'll show you why. So this is what I'm going to post. I'm now going to go into my main account, and let's just see what the reports say here, taxes say here, and let's see what my taxes say at the moment. So I prepare return. I have 0 sales in there at the moment and £52.75 worth of purchases. And now just to give some context, if I go to my trial balance and I run that at the period that I care about, this is the date that the data I'm working with now. So if I bring up my opening balance adjustment that I'm going to do, or my balance adjustment, you'll see some really important bits here. You see, so May, our debtors in our main account was 30, it's now 30. We want it to move to 17,100. My sales figure is showing 30, it was 30 before, and we want it to be 75. And my VAT control and my VAT suspense, well, that figure there, that suspense account is the last one that I've done, and that's what I care about. All right, let's post this then. So I'm going to go in and do a new journal entry, and we're going to post these journal entries as shown here. So movement to post. First of all, we've got our bank account, so make sure we get our date right. Movement to post. So bank account. Next one was main bank account. So I'm going to put that to client account as well, because if you think about it, that's that transfer. We're just basically cancelling that transfer off. I've got my debtors. Now when I post against debtors, I'm doing 12,900, but I must put a name there. In this one, I've just put a really generic name, client account debtors. Because again, my movement's already shown somewhere else. My VAT control, I can go to VAT control, no problem. But what I must be careful of is my VAT suspense. Now, you can put it to VAT suspense, but you're just going to end up messing things around. Now, when you're posting the VAT suspense, I would recommend creating a new one called something like VAT on debtors, maybe VAT on client debtors, something like that. And you're going to put the figure in here, and I'll explain why in a moment, but you don't want it put into the suspense account. You're then going to put your sales figure in. Okay, so before I post this difference, what I want to be using is this attachment button down here. And I want to be attaching basically my client files to give me my digital links, and also that trial balance we've got here, so that we can save and close, and we've posted that. If we look at our last month key elements here, first of all, our client account now is that reconcile figure to 24,900. We'd want to reconcile that as well, that our main bank account, make sure that's correct, but that's a separate exercise. My VAT on debtors is separate at the moment. We're going to deal with that in a moment. My debtors is showing that 17,100. My sales is showing 75,000, and all of these other accounts here, like the control and my wages control, they just need to be reconciled independently. VAT control should be easier because now I know what my debtors was and what figure I expect to see there. Plus I know what my debtors and my creditors were, and I can add and subtract that. I should come back to the same figure there. My VAT suspense account. Now I should be able to reconcile this VAT control account. Most of that is going to be from my client account, but then I'm also going to have some maybe creditors left over, some of the VAT in there, so I just need to reconcile that, but it should be reconcilable. My VAT suspense account there is going to be important to me, and that's our final step. So to complete that final step, I'm going to jump into my taxes. Remember, I've got £9,483 worth of VAT to declare in this quarter, or this period. And that's going to, the reason I put it as a bank account when I do it this way, VAT on debtors, is because then it smacks me in the face on here. This is my control account here. So in my dashboard, I can see that my bank account still needs reconciling, that's fine. My client account's perfectly reconciled per the previous one. And my VAT on debtors, £9,483.33. I need to show that. I need to declare that on my next VAT return. So how do we do that? Well, we'll jump into taxes, prepare my return, adjust my return. My adjustment date's going to be the last day of the month. I'm going to put 20% there. And my VAT account is the VAT on debtors. My adjustment amount is that £9,483. I can put a memo there if I need to, press save. That's now going to increase my sales to 9,483. I had that £52.75 worth of VAT that I need to declare in this one, meaning that if I was just to change my submission date to make it nice and clean, and I was to mark as filed, this is the amount that's going to be paid, £9,438.58. Press continue. And if I go to my reports, my trial balance, last month, just to be safe, you'll see that my VAT suspense is now doubled a little bit. It's got £500 extra because we've still got the last one to pay over, so at some point that'll be paid, and then after that I'll also pay my next one. £9,430, which is exactly what I wanted to see. My VAT on debtors account has gone back to zero, which I want to see. My debtors account, again, as we said, is right. And my VAT control account now is exactly to the penny of my June 21 figures in my client account. Again, you'll be able to reconcile that. The only thing that could adjust that is going to be expenses, so input VAT in this particular period. So anything there you might need to adjust for it. But that control account's right, that suspense account's right, and all these wages accounts I'll deal with at a different point. Sales I'm happy with, and everything else is all perfect per this particular account. Finally, if I jump in dashboard, again, using VAT on debtors as a cash account, it means it's a zero there, means it's going to be my control to make sure I'm happy with it. And there we have it. As you can see, we've got our digital links all sorted because we've transferred all the data, all the working that's actually get to that figure, so we're happy with that. We were able to put the movement only, which just affected the VAT return on a cash account basis, and we're able to make sure that both our accounts are now reconciled and clean and tidy, so that VAT return was right to be filed. What do you think? Hopefully that was enough of a insight for you. Now this is a bit of a more manual process. There are ways to speed this things up, and if you want me to go into a more detailed way of how I would tackle it on an automated basis, then drop some comments in below. One of the things you can help yourself to speed it up as well is when I did that opening balance, when I did that movement journal, that's probably the longest part of this process, where you can easily create yourself a nice little template to do that automatically. Or again, if I get enough love down below, I'll make sure one's available for you and do a follow-on video showing just that. Again, it's been a bit of a niche video, but definitely a video worthwhile looking into if you're having problems like this. Hopefully you can get that sorted. Any problems, let me know below. Let me know how you tackle it, if you tackle it anywhere differently. My name's been Aaron Patrick. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure to do this video with you. Thanks for staying around for this one, a bit of a more geeky one. See you on the next video. Bye for now.
I told him I can be a fighter if you want. I'll be there to catch you if you fall. I can make it brighter when it's dark, I told him I would do it all for you, and I know you do it for me too. I can be a fighter if you want, if you want. I can be a fighter. I can be a fighter if you want. I can be a fighter if you want. All the way that I feel, yeah, I know that it's real, cause I can get him out of my head. I don't care what we do, everything's feeling new. Even if we stay in bed, my heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah. You know I want him, nah, 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 nah. My heart is saying yeah, 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 yeah.
Hello and thank you for watching that video. What you may not know is this channel that you've watched this video from is part of a wider group. That wider group is called AppleCore Production. And the 3 channels that we have involved are as follows: Aaron Patrick, the QuickBooks chat, Boffick's tax tip. Finally, we have AppleCore Live and Geeky. All the links and everything are down below in the description, but it really means a lot to us if you can go and give a like to the other channels as well.